Yeah, hello and welcome to today's episode of Stand Up. It's the Friday show, and I've got comedian Christian Finnegan, and we have an awesome conversation. I think you're going to love this one. He has always puts things into context. He is a thoughtful, brilliant guy, and I loved our conversation today. That's coming up in just a moment, of course. Last night, I was with the great John Donvan and Intelligence Squared Debates in New York City, where they debated, was January 6th an existential threat to democracy? That was the motion. I don't really know what the word existential means most of the time or how it's used in this case necessarily, but it was a great debate between Andrew Keene and Rebecca Carruthers, and I really enjoyed being there last night, seeing John, a few other people. Hopefully I didn't get COVID, but that's why I am late today, and to blame John Donvan. But, oh man, yesterday was pretty crazy, huh? First you had former disgraced president, very disgraced. I mean, he is so disgraced, Donald Trump now, so embarrassed that even his hardest core fans were feeling embarrassment for him when he teased his big announcement, and it turns out it's just another grift. Digital trading cards. That's right. Donald Trump announced yesterday that he was going to be selling digital images of himself that people had made, cartoon images, etc., for $99 a piece. And one has to wonder just how bad of a situation he is in financially. I mean, his big announcement that he teased was a digital trading card. You don't even get to hold it. It's just on your screen. He's asking $99 for a digital image. The announcement video that he made was about how amazing he is. And like I said, even his supporters are coming out to see how pathetic he is. People like Steve Bannon saying, I can't take this anymore. But the responses were obviously fast and furious. Brian Tyler Cohen. I don't even think I had more secondhand embarrassment than I do right now after seeing Trump's major announcement. The Lincoln Project. Oh, it's grifting season. Phil Bump. Losing the plot. Jon Stewart. Today's Trump announcement is the closest we'll ever get to a concession speech. And casting the most shade on him is the current president, Joe Biden, who rarely does this kind of thing, but he tweeted, I had some major announcements the last couple of weeks, too. Inflation's easing. I just signed the Respect for Marriage Act. We brought Brittany Griner home. Gas prices are lower than a year ago. And 10,000 new high-paying jobs in Arizona. So even his hardest core fans are starting to leave him. I think this is it. I mean, this is the moment. It's got to be, right? All right, moving on. The other big story yesterday, real quick, was, of course, Elon Musk banning a whole bunch of journalists because he didn't like what they said about him. He's saying that they doxed him. They didn't dox him. And the whole drama was crazy. It was really sad to watch it play out last night on Twitter when some of your favorite people on Twitter were banned, and they didn't even know why, because they said they didn't tweet anything about him. They might have shared a story. Elon Musk and Twitter are now also banning links to alternative social media platforms like Mastodon and Post, where people are trying to tell you where you can go find them. By the way, I'm on both of those, so if you are, find me, I'll find you there. I still don't even know how to use them. But last night, there was what's called a Twitter Spaces, where Twitter allows you to go on and have a giant chat room. And it was hosted by some of these journalists. And guess who popped in? Elon Musk. Well, I've got the audio of it from you. It's about 3 minutes, and you can hear him pop in, say what he has to say, get called out by one of the journalists, Drew Harwell at the Washington Post, that he had just banned. I'm not sure if Elon knew that he was there. And then Elon Musk just runs away. He just hangs up when he gets called out. It's pretty wild. And here it is.
In the last few hours, with a handful of journalists being banned.
Well, as I'm sure everyone who's been doxxed would agree, showing real-time information about somebody's location is inappropriate, and I think everyone on this call would not like that to be done to them. And there is not going to be any distinction in the future between journalists, so-called journalists, and regular people. Everyone's going to be treated the same. You're not special because you're a journalist. You're a Twitter. You're a citizen. So no special treatment. You dox, you get suspended. End of story. So ban evasion, or trying to be clever about it. Like, oh, I posted a link to the real-time information. is obviously simply trying to evade the meaning. That is no different than actually showing real-time information.
So when you're saying posting a link to it, I mean, some of the people like Drew and Ryan Mack from the New York Times who were banned were they were reporting on it in the course of sort of pretty normal journalistic endeavors. You consider that like a tricky attempt at ban evasion?
You show the link to the real-time information, ban evasion, obviously.
Drew, I don't think you were posting the real-time information, right?
I mean, you're suggesting that we're sharing your address, which is not true. And you're suggesting that we're posting. We never. I never posted your address.
You posted a link to the address.
We posted a link. In the course of reporting about Elon Jet, we posted links to Elon Jet, which are now not online and now banned on Twitter. And Twitter also, of course, marks even the Instagram and Mastodon accounts of Elon Jet as harmful. Using, we have to acknowledge using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 2020. So what is different here and there?
No more acceptable for me. It's no more acceptable for me, for you, than it is for me. Same thing. So anyway.
So it's unacceptable what you're doing?
No, what you dox, you get suspended, end of story. That's it.
Elon, I have to ask, I mean, I think what everyone's wondering is it's highly unusual for journalists at the Washington Post and the New York Times to have their Twitter accounts suspended. And it just so happens that it's, the boss in charge, so, what's the deal there? Oh, I think Elon has left. I guess
that's unfortunate because
the answer.
Yeah, I mean,
guess what the difference is there.
Man, I had so many. I was raring to go, guys.
I know, I was too.
I was going to order a Cybertruck.
I just want to say, sorry, I don't want to browbeat him. And this is reporting, right? There is value to reporting where people go. Most of what Elon Jet shared was him going to the factory in California or the factory in Texas.
All right, well, that's how it played out last night on Twitter Spaces, and we'll see where we go today and throughout the weekend. I'll be right here with you, for you, every weekday, hosting this podcast, if you can continue to pay $5 or more a month. I don't mean to sound like Elon Musk, and I don't think I do. I think that what we're doing here is really great, wonderful, but I've got to be able to make a living doing it because I'm putting almost everything, all the resources and time and energy I have into this podcast because I love doing it. I love talking to these folks every day, and I can't do it without your support. So sign up now, standupwithpete.com or patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Very sorry that I missed the hangout last night. I missed seeing you guys. I might even pop up and do one later tonight. So look for that email coming in. If you are a subscriber, might do it tonight or over the weekend. We'll see. But let's get to my conversation with Christian Finnegan, which really is great. As always, putting in a lot into context. I actually talked to him before Elon Musk banned all those journalists, so we didn't really touch on that, but we did talk about Donald Trump's digital card and a lot more important things. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. One of my favorite comedians. You should get all of his albums, and you should support him right now. You can support him right now if you like music at all. I can't recommend this newsletter that he does more. It's new music for olds. Go subscribe to it right now. Support Christian and follow him on Twitter while it's barely just a thing left yet. And support him any way you can if you can see him live. But here we go right now with the great Christian Finnegan, my final guest of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Christian Finnegan. Just Christian and I solo this week. I actually just taped, and I don't know when it's going to air, if I'm even allowed to say it, but an appearance on Ophira's podcast, Parenting is a Joke. So I know she's alive and she's still there, but she's working on that. I'm glad it's just you.
I am too, man. Just clear out, all of her. Just, I'm a woman, listen to me. It just gets, it's so tedious.
She's always jumping into the conversation when she's here.
Yes. Enough. No mas. I don't even know how to get out of this little hole I've already dug myself.
Cul-de-sac of sexism that we will. You're sounding very like you're ironically making fun of wokeism. I wanted to ask you about this. How much longer do we have to deal with that as a policy for the Republican and conservative movement? The wokeism. How much more will we have to endure?
It's going to take a new trend on the left, or among the left isn't even the right word, people left of center, because basically Republicans are always 5 years late to everything. And they're not creative people. They're not interesting people. And so all they can do is make fun of the trends that are created by creative people or insightful people. And so it's going to take, if you want to talk about the sort of rise of quote unquote wokeness as, say, between 2012 and 2017 is when this was a actual legitimate trend on the left, like when people used to use that word non-ironically,
right,
et cetera, and so forth. It took Republicans until probably about 2017, 2018 to even start knowing to make fun of it. And so they'll run this joke or, this premise into the ground because they're not interesting people. And so it's really going to take people left of center creating a new paradigm to make fun of for them to abandon.
That is a great answer, and impossible to predict what it is because we're not going to be the ones that will necessarily come up with it.
No, it'll come from young black people. This is how it always happens.
Yeah. Is
that young black people, black culture creates something, whether it's on fleek or, the GOAT, greatest of all time, that acronym, and then sort of or sympathetic, culturally sympathetic white people will adopt it and then almost kind of use it ironically. Like, wouldn't it be funny if a white person like me said on fleek? And then finally at the end of that sort of phase is when sort of your dumber conservative people who think they're funny will start adopting it and use it only sarcastically. And then, the whole Gandhi thing is the first they ignore you, then they make fun of you, then they fight you, then you win. They're in the fight you phase on woke. And, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, no, I love where you went with it. That's a very, very interesting explanation. And what do you think about yesterday? Ron DeSantis announced this alternative panel of scientists and doctors and quacks and conspiracy theorists to look into, the pharmaceutical companies and vaccines. And so basically it's sowing more doubt about vaccines at a time where we certainly can't afford that. We're seeing all these horrible diseases, viruses blend into one, the triple-demic, and not to mention what could be coming around the pike at us that we could come up with a miracle for science to diffuse. What do you think about what he and others are doing on that movement to discredit? And they'll probably get some internal documents, releasing them selectively, and make everybody think that Pfizer is trying to kill us.
Yeah, I mean, even this, though, to me is an example. It doesn't seem like strategically that bright. I mean, I could be wrong about this, okay, but I kind of feel like even the anti-vax movement is not as passionate as it was 8 months ago.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel. It just doesn't feel like where people's passions are at this particular moment. I mean, I think that a lot of those anti-vax people are now, when you've got the richest man in the world tweeting prosecute Fauci and all that, I understand that it's probably more dangerous now in terms of the sort of market share it has in the Republican mind. But I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a winner to me electorally. And I'm going to assume that there is no good faith reason for Ron DeSantis doing this. I feel like he's doing this because he thinks this is going to be his ticket to the big time. And I think it's where he recognizes that Trump is vulnerable because Trump was pro-vaccine. And so if he can sort of posit himself as the right-wing alternative to Trump on vaccines.
That's really,
I think so.
God, ew.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's it.
The anti-vax alternative to Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter who it is. That's just a fascinating lane to be traveling through to the nomination, to the RNC.
But I really think that's what he's trying to do, is that Donald Trump has been vague and kind of non-committal, but he has, praised vaccines, even when his base was solidly against them. And so to me, this is about him trying to drive a wedge between the anti-vax people and their Trump.
I'll never forget that one time when he was in a live audience, maybe it was a TV taping, and he was supportive of vaccines, and his crowd started to get uncomfortable, and he feels that, just like a comic. He's good at that, let's be clear. And then he started pulling back. He's like, I have to get them. I'm saying I think they're good, but you don't have to. Like, he pulled back because he heard their reaction on vaccines of all the... I wanted to ask you this. Did you ever, I wouldn't have been surprised because I always wanted you involved in pretty much everything we were doing at Sirius. Did you ever come in and do one of our panels with Matt Taibbi? Do you know Matt Taibbi?
I don't know him personally, no.
Okay.
No, I never did.
I want you to listen to something he said, talking to Ben Shapiro, and he's commenting on humor. And so I wanted you and everybody to hear it, and I want to get your reaction to it. Here's Matt Taibbi talking to Ben Shapiro. And he's talking about conservatism and how it's appealing to young people because there's no sense of humor on the political left. And then he goes on to praise Matt Walsh. But I don't think I'm going to even play that. Well, let's see.
I was growing up, there would have been no thought at all of conservatism as an attractive ideology for a young person. Like that was completely out of the realm of possibility. But now I think you see it very significantly with something like humor. There's just no sense of humor on the political left now. And that used to be the exclusive province of the political left once upon a time. I mean, I grew up listening to Richard Pryor albums and, that Sam Kinison. That was my education growing up. And those were our people, we thought. And now all of a sudden, there's no joking allowed on this side of the aisle. And that's one of the things that's funny.
All right, well, hold on before he tells us what's funny about Matt Walsh, which he's about to tell us. I really am interested, Christian, and if you can, honestly, sympathize with some of what he's saying about a lack of humor on the left, or can you not see at all what he means?
Well, first of all, it sounds so fucking old to me. I mean, it's just the way Bill Maher sounds. It's all these people. It's like, people don't find me funny anymore, or the things that I think are funny. And so therefore they must not have a sense of humor, as if people on the left are sitting around with it when they're just amongst their own friends. They're sitting around staring at the wall because we don't like humor anymore. We don't like things that are funny. You know what I mean? It's like, no, they don't think you're funny, and they don't find things funny that you think are funny. And especially like Sam Kinison, what are you talking about? Sam Kinison was a right-wing comedian. Like in my book, when I was growing up, I mean, at least in terms of like the way he would talk about like women, like I mean, his whole act about the Somalian famine, move to where the food is, this is sand, nothing grows in sand. It's like, okay, well, that wasn't a left-wing take. That was a fuck them, they're stupid Africans, we don't need to worry about them. Like that's what the undergirding of that bit was. And that was kind of Sam Kinison. He was a very reactionary comic in my mind. Just because somebody has long hair does not make them a liberal, And so, I mean, the Sam Kinison thing to me is very telling. And, but I mean, this is just so like, it just sounds so standard. This sort of idea like, rock and roll used to mean something. Like that's what this sounds like to me. It's like, no, the world has moved on and it's different. And you don't understand it, so you assume that they just don't get it. And Matt Taibbi, first of all, thank you. I'm so glad to have to listen to this. I'm so glad to listen to this in audio form, because watching his face while he speaks is an incredibly uncomfortable. Like the way his lips move, he looks like a fish gasping for water, like on a
my God.
The next time you watch him,
I know,
especially if you watch with the sound off, his face is just the way it contorts is very aesthetically unattractive.
That is so mean because it's so true. I have talked to him so many times in person and on camera.
It's just so gross. I don't like watching him speak.
He's always had some twitchiness.
Maybe there's if there's an actual speech impediment there, and I'm being ableist, then I apologize. But
no, he's like me in that he got new teeth, and they are tough to work around.
Maybe, that could be what it is.
So I'm not even punching down at him. I got new teeth, although my teeth they didn't affect my speech after the first hour.
Well, and it's not a coincidence to me that Matt Taibbi's sort of trip away, or his journey to the right, or to being a right-leaning thing, pretty much started immediately once all that stuff that he did in Russia came out, when he was running the exile. That and it became clear that
the accusations about his past from young women and the kind of jokes that he made about rape.
But it wasn't. First of all, it was accusations, but it was also stuff he and his partner literally wrote about what they did there.
Thank you for clearing that up. I don't remember that. Yeah.
So it's not like somebody accused him of things. Like, these are the things that we said we've done. And then when he got called on, he's like, oh, well, that's just hyperbole and we were just joking around. It's like, well, I don't believe that because, there's this idea sometimes that if you hate corporations, that automatically means that you are sort of liberal or left across the board. I mean, being economically liberal or being economically leftist, that's all well and good. But if you think all women are sluts and you think that they're made to give you blowjobs on your command, that does something to me in terms of your leftist bona fides. I don't.
I think
just hating corporations is not enough.
I think that his so much of the respect that I afforded him was his reporting on the financial industry, which was top notch and got uncovered a lot of things. And the way he did that reporting, his reporting on like classism and race, even in America, like it was really great. But like clearly there are a lot of issues around gender and sexism with it, but more importantly, like whatever he's doing and why he's doing it is so disappointing, and he is not the only one. There are so many people, and it's not easy to do, but whether it be a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Substack, you can really make a lot of money by making a lot of noise and making like a transition the way that he and Greenwald and several others are. And
absolutely. Oh yeah. To be
Barry
a former,
Weiss.
There's nothing that conservatives love more is a former liberal coming to their side of things, which is a trend that happens to people as they get older anyway, because they get fixed in time and they think that the whole world was fucked up and made progress until I was 28. And then things were perfect. And any progress that happened from then is radical and crazy and insane. Like I really do think a lot of these people have that mindset that it was like, slavery was bad and redlining was bad. But then right around the time that I came of age, that's when racism was solved. And any further, and I'm using racism, but you could use sexism, you could use gay rights, you could use any sort of social culture war metric. That people get to a certain age where they stop evolving, or they stop allowing themselves to evolve, and they're skeptical of anyone who asks them to evolve.
Yes, that's exactly.
And that usually happens around somebody's late 20s to 40, like when they just sort of calcify in their opinion.
No, you're right about a lot of people. Certainly not all people. You're not that way. I don't think I'm that way for the most part. And
the thing about Taibbi too is that like he's always been a shit stirrer. He's a dude who loves to just create discord. Which is great when that is aimed in a direction that you agree with. And then when it's aimed at something you don't agree with, you maybe see it in a slightly different way.
That's like, also
okay. You just like people being angry at you.
I liked it when he's targeting financial, company assholes who took down the economy or law enforcement people who are corrupt. I like all that, but you're absolutely right. When he's cozying up with Ben Shapiro, and then if I play the rest of that clip, which I'm not going to, he basically compliments and talks about Matt Walsh, who's the guy who was the reason. Remember last 2 summers ago when I got called a pedophile for like 2 weeks? That was Matt Walsh did that to me, and me. I started it. To be fair, I picked a fight with the dude, but as a result of it, he buried me.
I mean the pedophile thing. I think people need to understand.
Groomer, he's the leader of that ideology. One of them. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He's human garbage. But the whole groomer pedophile thing. Basically, what it is.
Where are you on that?
Soft disagree. No, it is a performance. I'm sorry, it's a permission structure to let you treat people however cruelly you want to treat them. Because if you can label something as being pro pedophile or pro groomer or then anything's allowed. Then anything's allowed.
So whether it's somebody calling me that on Twitter or people connecting every gay person to also being a pedophile and or grooming their young people to also be gay, I think that's the accusation. That is, what are you saying?
I'm saying that it's really, at the end of the day, in my opinion, very little of it has anything to do with sexual exploitation of children or pedophilia or any of it. It's just, I need an excuse to be as mean to you as I want to be. And once I have sort of teamed you up with pedophiles, well, then anything is allowed. And that goes from making fun of you online to murdering you. I mean, that's the real danger of that, is that it's dehumanizing in the literal sense of the term.
The more we're learning about the guy who attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband, you also had the pizza joint in D.C. When you said goes to violence, those are 2 examples off the top of my head. There are many more that are clearly inspired by
and I don't think that most of the people who do that are planning on showing up at your house with a hammer or a gun or whatever.
Right.
They just want the excuse to be shitty to you online.
Right.
They want the excuse to harass you and to basically chase you out of the public square, either digitally or in person, like in terms of drag brunches or whatever. But the thing is, there's always going to be that 10-15% that takes that next step. So it's garbage, but it's just like, it's not even worth entertaining. It's not even worth countering. Like, no, I'm not a groomer. It's like, you don't think I am, you're just saying this, and obviously you can bring up all the
but I
examples of,
but the real, that's not dismissing that. I was about to say, but the real life problem, that's a real life problem. It was for me and it is for a lot of people, but the way that it's manifesting in libraries, in schools, and at school board meetings, it's that the books that you're putting in there are grooming our kids. And that, in one case, I heard that a podcast, it was a New York Times podcast, the librarian herself was accused of being a groomer. Just a 63-year-old, married to a woman, a librarian, and you hear her, and they're calling her a groomer. And so the damage that it does in schools to teachers, librarians.
Well, yeah, right. Well, think about if a trans person went and applied for a job at that library now.
Oh, God.
You think they would get it?
Good luck.
Not in a million years, because it's like, oh God, if we're getting death threats about our 63-year-old, Carol, who loves watching the Equalizer every week, or who really loves Disney and has a learn, laugh, love plaque on her wall or whatever.
She's the nicest, kindest,
just the most straightforward, basic woman in the world. It's like, that's the chilling effect of that. It's like, well, then God forbid somebody who actually has blue hair or something like that comes in. Well, then, we don't need the controversy. We just don't want the drama.
And by blue hair, you don't mean an actually older woman than the other woman. You mean by a trans person or somebody
who's clearly left of center or, not, it has a chilling effect, down the line.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It does. All right. Last thing I wanted to ask you though about is, I don't know. I was going to say it's probably least important, but it's not. And I certainly love to get several takes on a thing before I move past it. And I always love when one of them is yours. So yesterday, former President
most
Trump,
awkward setup in the world.
So bad. So yeah, might edit it out. Might not. A lot of work. So yesterday, Trump, he teased a big announcement, and some people thought he might announce a run for Speaker of the House. I don't know what else people were thinking or what they were guessing, but the announcement turns out was a new thing that he's hawking, literally, that he's selling. He's calling it an NFT, so I guess he's dressing it up like it's an investment, but it's just a digital image. It's just a picture, folks, in case you don't know what an NFT is. Sometimes they can be worth money. They're all of him, and they're just all kinds of different cartoonish mock-ups or whatever, but they are a digital image. He sells it for $99. I won't play it. You've probably seen it, and I've probably taken too long to even talk about it, to set it up. It is classic him. It is, he just talks about how he's better than everybody and he's the greatest, and go buy an image for $99. And Christian, I'll just say that I think he's done. I think he's pathetic. And I'll even say I think his some of his hardest core fans are going to think it's a pathetic thing to do, what he's doing here.
To me, it's the fucking funniest thing he's done in years. You know, in the sense that you're right, that it's like this could not be more of a slap in the face to the people who actually like believe in him as a leader. It's such.
Why do you say that?
Because it's like there are people out there who spend so much emotional energy trying to pretend that this is a serious person with serious beliefs and actual like strategic plans for the nation,
concerns,
who actually gives a shit about America, and it's just like, and to see the pretzels that they have to twist themselves into to justify his just Donald Trumpness over the years is exquisite. But this is just like, it's almost like he's saying to them, okay, Donald Trump fans, try and justify this, or see, I don't know. It's just, it's so brazen and it's so empty. It's empty. And first of all, just Donald Trump aligning himself with the NFTs in the wake of that NFTs are not really super popular right now. You know what I mean? Like first of all, he missed the boat on it by about 6 months. It feels like, not just with FTX, that are not directly linked, but I feel like there's a lot more skepticism. Yeah. Thank God, about this whole
but
NFT
even if the NFT market was something that would, there was value there, would an image of him be worth something? I don't know how it works, but
I mean, well, it took me a long time to even get a grasp on how NFTs function and what their point is, and I still am a rookie. But I've listened to at least 2 podcasts about it, Pete, and the sort of way people make fun of NFTs is by relating them to baseball cards, right? Which is like, it's like baseball cards or collecting anything, collecting stamps or collecting that things create a market. Because of scarcity, there's only 12 or, there's only 100 of something. And so whoever has one of those 100, that creates value within the community that gives a shit about that.
I have a Bubba
thing.
Smith rookie card. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And so to have him just so on the nose release a set of baseball cards, because that's really what they are. They're so childish. I have Trump as a ship captain. I have Trump as a football player. Like it's just they went through a list of like, what's everything a 6-year-old in the 1950s said he wanted to be when he grew up, and they made a card of every one of those things. I'm an astronaut. I'm a fireman. Like, it's so just silly.
Do you think that it would be one thing if he wasn't running for president again? He was the ex-president, and maybe he could make a little change on this to pay his legal fees. But he's running for president again, and he's not talking about or campaigning on any issue at all. He's not doing anything, as a matter of fact, except he just released this, was his major announcement. Here's a thing you can buy, and I guess maybe it's a good investment is what he's trying to sell, but it's not like he's running for president, isn't he?
Well, that's the reason why people don't announce for president 2 years out from a race.
Because they want to sell NFTs?
Well, no, because I'm saying there's an attention economy, and, you get a week of headlines like, oh my God, Trump's running for president again. Right. Okay, now you're in December of 2022. You have 22 months until there's an election. And so then you kind of just go back to being a guy. I mean, yes, he's running for president, but there's no real running to do right now. There's nothing to do as a presidential candidate until, say, probably next summer, is my guess. You know what I mean?
If anything, he would be behind the scenes trying to gather money for his campaign. And I guess this is
right.
it.
But I'm just saying in terms of like being a part of the conversation and being like, having people talking about it. There's really nothing to do as a candidate right now. And so he's obviously gone back to just being Trump, the businessman, quote unquote, again, because there's nothing to do as a candidate. And the two aren't really great bedfellows. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be selling steaks and running for president at the same time. I don't know.
I think it's all valid and interesting. And I just want to ask you if you think that based on this couple late polls or headlines of Trump supporters, he's like lost so much support, and DeSantis has more support, and Biden has more support, and everybody's got a lot more than him. Do you think that's a trend that's true? Do you think it changes once he?
Well, before we move on, I'm just curious, how many have you bought so far?
6.
Okay.
Yeah, but anything anywhere where he's shirtless and has lasers coming out of his eye, really, like, I think those are hilarious.
I got the one where he's showing full butthole. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh, that's probably going to be worth a lot of money to certain people.
Mm-hmm. It's him on his back with his legs spread and him holding his butt cheeks apart.
Yeah, I got one of them where it's just a thought bubble and it says Chevys suck. So like all the Ford people can go eat shit kind of thing. I think that's going to be like, I don't care about that, but other people probably do.
It's probably smart. It's a good investment. Solid investment.
Yeah, I don't care. I've also bought a lot of blood diamonds. Speaking of emeralds, Elon Musk apparently.
Nice.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on recapping the week in Musk. And all
I hate that we have to think about this fucking person.
Yeah, I do too.
Because like even Trump, for all of his insane, like, I don't know, man. I think Elon may be more annoying in his own way. First of all, he's a less interesting person. He's a much less interesting. Like, Trump has that insane person way of free associating from topic to topic that keeps it at least like, wait, he said what? Whereas Elon just seems like an angry nerd who he seems like, did you ever see the movie Can't Buy Me Love?
I don't think
so. Patrick Dempsey. But it's about a nerd who has to, the hot chick in school hires him to like take her exams for her, but she has to then pretend that he's cool, like that's the deal, and so he gets in with like the cool crowd, but he becomes a total asshole as a result. Like, he becomes the kind of, that's sort of what Elon Musk reminds me of, is like, he's like the nerd who got invited to the party, and so now he thinks he's wearing like sunglasses. I wear sunglasses now.
Well, he showed up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he showed up on stage with Chappelle. He's literally invited to the party.
Yeah. And
what was that about?
The Chappelle thing?
The hell was that about? How were they?
I don't know. I mean, this has always been, as we've discussed, it's a weird topic for me to talk about, just because it's like, I owe, to the extent that I've had a career, I owe a good bit of it to Dave Chappelle. And so,
well, I was on The Apprentice, so go ahead.
Were you?
Yeah, I was on the season finale of The Apprentice.
Doing what?
I mean, it didn't do nearly as much for my career as Chappelle Show did for yours, but like, I mean, like, I think you're completely excused. But I'm saying it's like it's hard for me sometimes to drill down on what my actual opinions are about Dave at this point, because the political part of me wants to immediately be like, fuck that guy. But then I'm like, well, dude is my favorite comedian for 25 years. I feel the same way, but I feel like he's just, all I want to do is comment on what he's doing, the fact.
But in terms of like why he would have Elon on stage, I don't know. I mean, I think, Chappelle is kind of lost as a person, I think he still has, I think his SNL monologue, for even as problematic, quote unquote, as people said it was, it displayed that like, oh, okay, he's still got comedy chops, sure, like when he wants to use them.
Sure.
He still knows how to frame a joke and how to create a metaphor and all that. But in terms of just like him as a guy, I think he's lost the way big time. And the minute you start referring to yourself as the GOAT, like that's never.
That was very much a put off. Agreed.
It's not funny. It's the opposite of funny to me. Like that sort of the bravado of sort of the hip hop world. To me, I remember, and Chris Rock is the one who said it. I remember Chris Rock saying 25 years ago that cool is the enemy of comedy, and it really is true. And Dave Chappelle he thinks he's cool now. That is not funny.
Really interesting analysis. Yeah. Before I let you go, I know you're you're compiling, you're analyzing some of the end of year list stuff in music and movies and TV. And will you be putting that in your newsletter? Have I missed it? If you did,
I will. No, the next one for next week, I'll have just, my own sort of personal list and whatnot. But this is always such it's a very intense few weeks when all the lists come out, because I do feel compelled.
I like them. I think they help a person like me decide things that I'm not able to decide on my own. Apparently, I need to have my hand.
Do you actually follow through on them? Do you actually look at these lists and be like, "Oh, I'm going to watch these things"?
For sure.
Or
I mean, not like all of them, and I know which things I like, but like whether it's a song or even an album, much less a TV show or a film or even a book, for sure. I get into them. I like it. I like someone smart spending time aggregating, and I love everything that you do. So you have criticisms of them?
Well, it's not criticism so much as that sometimes, it's when you see something in list form, especially with music, you sometimes can maybe put a little more weight on it than they deserve, because you actually read the blurbs that the people write about the albums, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't listen to this person about anything. Like this person's a fool. And I also find that like a lot of the lists, they have a lot of albums in common, which I always find a little strange, because it's just like, really, of the 10,000 albums that were released this year, all 5 of you have managed to isolate the same 3 or 4 that are, and so there's a narrative groupthink aspect to lists of kind of like, wait, where's the conversation at? What albums do I need to include in my list to show that I am part of this discourse? Which I find tiresome. And there's just people's lists piss me off is really what it is that I just disagree with them. And I guess that's kind of the point of them, is they provoke a reaction.
What would be another reason, though, to have a negative reaction of someone's list other than they couldn't come up with their own 10 new albums? They had to have some kind of groupthink. Like what else do these lists do that aggravate you? Because I have such an easy mark for a list.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, I think that it's not just groupthink, but it's also this idea of, I need to use this list to advertise my own taste and to show the breadth of my critical judgment. And I will, I fall into that trap sometimes myself, I think, in terms of wanting to not necessarily talk about the same kind of music every week, like, look at all the different genres I enjoy. But I don't know. I just realize sometimes that a lot of the people that are writing these lists are 27, and I don't think they're very smart, or I don't buy it.
Well,
and it's like, you see people, just intelligent people, and they'll have some, really dense, complicated album that they think makes them look smart. But then they'll also be like, that and Taylor Swift were the 2 best albums of the year. And be like, really? I just don't believe you like both of those.
That's why I like your list and your newsletter. And of course, why everybody should be subscribing to New Music for Olds. Next week, when hopefully, will we get to talk to you next week? Because I want to talk to you about alcohol.
Oh, yeah. I imagine. Yeah. That's what, the 23rd?
Yeah, I want to get a little deeper into it, but just
I'll be around until Christmas Day.
Okay, good. We'll but real quick, you've been not drinking for how long?
Let's see. August, September, October, November. It'll be 5 months and a few days.
And and then we'll get into it. But how would you characterize how it's been? How's it going? How's that?
Underwhelming. I would love to say that I feel better, or I've lost weight, or I feel markedly. No, I don't feel any difference.
It's not necessarily.
I wish I could say I did, but
okay.
I don't.
All right. Well, we'll get more into it next time.
I know it's better for me. I know it's better. it's a good thing. I'm proud that I have managed to do it and that it doesn't feel like a real labor. Hasn't been that hard. But I was maybe hoping that it would sort of open some doors to perception that remain closed.
I bet you a lot of people can relate to that, and we'll probably tweet you or contact you one way or another. But I want to talk more about that. I'm very much interested in it for myself, for other people, and I appreciate you telling me that. And everything else, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a great talk as always, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
All right, there he goes, Christian Finnegan. Hopefully we'll get Ophira back on with us next week, but go say hi to Christian any way you can. Subscribe to his newsletter, New Music for Olds, and that's all I've got for you today and this week. Hopefully I didn't come up short. Hopefully I met your expectations. Hopefully you will support me with a subscription if you aren't already. Those of you who are, you're the greatest. You're the greatest people in the world. I hope you have an awesome weekend. I'll talk to you Monday. I so appreciate you. And maybe I'll be hosting a hangout at some point. Look for that email if you are a listener and subscriber. All right, that's it. Have a great, great weekend. And that's all I'm going to say. Love you. Bye-bye.
Knees, you gotta stand up, stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up, that's right. You got to rise up, you got to stand up. Stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. This is the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for loss, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to know, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.